now, from Studio 12 in Buffalo, New York, 1-2 Radio presents Susan Dintino Live. And here she is, Susan Dintino.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Susan Dintino Live, broadcasting live from Buffalo. And again, I know you're always wondering where I am. So tonight I am in Buffalo, looking out at a beautiful evening. I think I'm going to have to defer to my husband on this with one of our bickerments, as I was describing the other day, that I think there is a sailboat club of some kind that does meet every Wednesday evening, because it seems too big of a coincidence that this many sailboats are on the lake every Wednesday. And I've been here enough now that I've been watching. And so I think he might be right that it's some kind of a club. So now I'm saying all of this because he's not listening, because I would not admit to him that he's right. But I think he is right with that. So it's a beautiful evening out there, watching the sailboats on the lake, and just a sunny night. So I hope the weather is smiling on you wherever you are. June is all about making waves here on Susan Dintino Live. And throughout the summer, we're going to be talking about people and their creative impulses and what it would take for you to really make waves in your own life. It is the question, what is it that your soul, your heart is yearning to do right now? Are you looking to get into a new relationship? Maybe try out a new hobby? Maybe look for a new job? What is it that you're looking for? So throughout the summer, we're going to be talking about that. I'm leaving tomorrow for England, which I'm really excited about. I'm going on the Merlin... I can't believe I can never remember the name of this trip. But anyways, it's Merlin Magic and Stone Tour. I believe that's it. And I'm going with Valerie Camozzi, who often produces me here on 1-2 Radio, and Erica Langdon, both colleagues of mine on 1-2 Listen, as well as friends. So I'm really excited about it. I haven't gone out of the country for a while. Actually, I was thinking about it, and the last time I had to pack for a trip like this, I think, was last June when I was heading to Hawaii. So I'm really looking forward to it, beginning that journey tomorrow. So I wanted to tell all of you that I will not be live next week, but I really have a interesting show planned for you. So I hope you'll tune in. Those of you out there that have been following me know that my book, Songs of My Life, Slightly Out of Tune, is being released. And actually, you can get it in pre-sale right now. It is being distributed by Amazon.com. Hay House is releasing it at the end of the month. So I thought what would be fun would be to read one of my chapters from the book. So next week, I am going to be reading We Are Family on Vacation. And I think you'll get a big kick out of the chapter. I'm going to talk a little bit about what my inspiration was when I was writing the book and some of the things that I did when writing it, because I know there's people out there that think, oh my gosh, how could I ever sit down and write a book? And yet they've got an idea of something that they would like to see come in print. So I really think it will be a great show and things that you'll find interesting. And I think you'll really enjoy listening to the chapter. So that's next week. And then the week after, I will be back. Now, I'm not going to tell you what kind of shape I'm going to be in, because I think it's going to be the day after I land. So jet lag and me don't tend to get along very well, but I will be on the air the last Wednesday in June, and I will be telling you all about my trip. I'm really excited, in addition, because I just got commissioned to write a magazine article for Islands of the Times, which is a really nice magazine in the southwest part of Florida. So I'll really be looking at everything with a writer's eye. So it should be interesting. So I'll probably have a lot more details to share with you than I ordinarily would, because I'll have to write about it. So looking forward to it on every level. We're going to be going to Stonehenge, and we're going to be in Glastonbury for the summer solstice. So that should be really exciting. This week, in my Constant Contact, my newsletter, I talked about the summer solstice, and it's really an important day with 2012 and the manifesting energy. The light of this year is so significant in bringing about the things that you want in your life. So plan some type of a little ceremony for yourself. It's June 20th, the day of the most light. It's the longest day of the year. So if there's something that you're looking to manifest, something that you're looking to change in your life, a belief that you feel is limiting you, really create a sacred ceremony and do something on that day to amp up and all of that light, something that you would like to shift. And for those of you that might not get my newsletter, first of all, you're welcome to sign up for it. Just visit my website, which is my name, SusanDintino.com. And I also always post it on Facebook. So if you visit me on Facebook, you'll see right on my page that it's there for you to read. And I give you a detailed description of something that you could do to really enhance your experience with the summer solstice. It's a little exercise that I think would really be beneficial in assisting you in manifesting or changing a limiting belief. Again, anything that you would like to do. So without any more explanation of all the things that I've now filled you in on, I'd like to talk a little bit about my guest this evening. As I was saying, the summertime is all about really on the show. And I think for everybody, the summer just really makes everybody, in my opinion, think that anything is possible. I don't know if it's because we go back to being kids where we have the whole summer ahead of us with nothing to do because that wonderful summer vacation and all that time. And I think most of us, when we know it's the summer, there's just a lightness to our attitude. And I think it's a great time to just take that lightness of attitude and do something with it in your life. So this evening, I'm going to have as my very special guest, Joan Graci. She is owner of APA Solutions, which is an employment agency here in Buffalo, New York. I've had her on before, and it was just fabulous. So many great questions came from you. So I want to remind you all that we do monitor the Facebook fan page. So if you go to 12 Radio in Facebook and then click on posts by others, you can join us there. And if you have a question and don't want to call in, you can feel free to ask it and we'll address it. The phone lines will be open right after the first break. So you can let us, give us a call and ask us a question. So anyways, Joan Graci, a career reformist. So I think that is really a cool title. So hello, Joan. How are you this evening?
I am wonderful, Susan. Well, you certainly have your wings, don't you? Flying all over the place. That's very exciting.
Yes, I am. I'm looking forward to it. Although I wish I did have wings because a part of this I'm not crazy about is flight that I'm not even thinking about. But yes, I'm really looking forward to it. So it should be. I haven't done anything like this in a while. All my trips recently have either been to go to Florida or to work. So I haven't really done something that was of a leisure quality in quite a while. So I am looking forward to it. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Again, career reformist. How did you come up with that title?
You know, it's just so funny. There's so much reform that you hear in so many different ways and so many venues. You know, we're talking about healthcare reform, and everything has this reform title to it, with the express belief that whatever the concept is, by reforming it, we could somehow make it better, make it stronger. And not being a politico, because for me, from a job standpoint, neither the Democratic or the Republican Party has really gotten to understand what's going on within the job front. It really takes somebody who's helping people identify their life's work to really give a concept of what it's like to be in this new economy. And because we really profess about how great of an opportunity and how great of a time this could be from a career standpoint, we really wanted to hit it with a very, very powerful term, and we felt reform really hit people right between the eyes because it really makes them stop and say, well, wait a minute, what is that? You know, if I say I'm a career consultant, if I say that I'm a career advisor, if I'm a career counselor, those are very, very bad terms, and it denotes a traditionalism, and we are the direct antithesis of traditional behaviors and thoughts. So we thought reform was a title that was very liking to our movement, which we hope is Occupy Wall Street in its approach, only we're going to leave the park. We're not going to stay in the park. Okay, right. We're not going to just go across the street from coffee. We are going to walk this nation. We are going to walk this nation. So we appreciate you giving us the opportunity to be on and to share a little bit more about our message.
Well, I think it really sounds exciting. And I think today I was listening to Doreen Virtue on Hay House Radio, and it was very interesting because she rarely gets into politics. And on today's show, she was talking about exactly what you're talking about the reform that's necessary on a global platform, because all of the zealousness that we had in the early 70s with the, protests and the marches, where it really did make a difference. It's interesting you mentioned that, because when we were driving not that long ago, I said to my husband, what happened to the Occupy? They were in one of the squares right here in downtown Buffalo. And he said, oh, it just kind of fizzled out. So it's very unlike the early 70s where it didn't fizzle out. So I think that what you're describing and what you're talking about doing, especially when it pertains to people's careers, is huge in changing the world as it is right now.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about it. And I think the difference between your time and us being able to see this is that you literally marched. I mean, you literally went from point A to point B, all right? And it didn't have, a coffee in its title. It was a totally different type of movement. And unfortunately, when you're, sedentary like they were, it really kind of lost its impact. And they had a focus that was so widespread, so many people really didn't even understand what were they doing and what the purpose was. And what our specific purpose is getting you to look at your future completely different than you ever have in your past. And we break it up into three distinct categories that we've seen be so prevalent in our employment agency. And even though we reside in Buffalo, New York, we place people on a national basis and in some cases an international basis. So we labeled them by three groups, which is, the rethink, which we really are kind of categorizing more of our high school and college kids. And it's really helping them rethink what their possibilities are, because we put them into a very, very traditional school system, and they get degrees in, history and philosophy and psychology, which are great basket weaving degrees. But unfortunately, what do those particular educational paths lead to when it comes to getting to move out of your parents' home? Which was a distinct goal of mine. I worship my children, but I wanted them to be able to support themselves. So we talk about those rethinkers, and then we talk about the reinventors, and those are the people that have been downsized or reach a midpoint in their life where they say, I'm not working for pay, I'm really working for meaning and fulfillment. And, how do we help those people connect to their best life, their best career life? And then the redefined people that we see all the time are, I was taught to stay in this job for a long period of time, and I've stopped growing. I've stopped learning. I've stopped yearning. And we take those individuals and teach them how to very strategically enhance their career path. So those are the primary three groups, which really touches just about everybody in the population. So when we talk about reinvent, when we talk about redefine, that to us culminates reform. So that's really what our platform is, and that's the message that, I hope to share, really more on a national basis, because with record unemployments, 40% of our college kids unemployed, outstanding student debt that now is equal to it's exceeded all of our credit card debt put together. Somebody's got to stand up and say, we need to fix this thing, because our kids need to be making better choices, and they're just so uninformed about what their possibilities are.
Well, that's an amazing statistic. 40% of college graduates are not working. That is an amazing statistic. How long have you been in the employment field, Joan?
It's so funny you would say that, because I just literally sent my book to the publisher, and it's called No MBA, and it's No More Bad Advice. And it really kind of takes the 10 pieces of bad advice that we were taught growing up, and unfortunately are still being taught today, and it really kind of puts them on its ear, and it says, don't take that advice, because this is really what you need to do in this new economy. And as the book progressed, all my years started to change. Sometimes it was 25 years, sometimes 22, sometimes 26. And I really had to put the pen to paper and think of, oh my God, how long have I been doing this? First off, I've been writing the book for 8 years. So, that probably had a lot to do with the fact that I had a lot of schizophrenic years in there. But I've actually been in the employment sector for 28 years. I was downsized from a position, wandered into an employment agency, never had any strategy or plan in mind. Thankfully, found a real passion and a real area of interest for myself, strictly by accident, not by any type of strategic thinking. And now what I really hope to do is, since 2000, I've been studying growth-oriented organizations across the country. And what has become abundantly clear to me is that these new innovators, and I think, Susan, your husband is certainly an example of that, is looking for a very, very different set of skills in their workforce than certainly my father had experienced when he was working. And unfortunately, we're not teaching any of the R's what those qualities and characteristics are that those employers are looking for. And 100% of the job growth today is actually in companies that are 10 years or younger. And it's also very, very much segregated, in the small and medium business sector. So those are things that we're not teaching, anybody in school today. And our employers are really, really saying to us, as well as the people that we've interviewed across the country, we need people. And this world has gotten to be a very, very small place, and we're having to go to India to find qualified talent. We're having to go to China and find qualified talent. And then the natural question would be, well, then how can we have a 40% unemployment rate with our graduates? Because that doesn't make sense, Joan. If there's jobs out there, why then isn't there then the connection to all these great young people that are doing what they're supposed to be doing by getting a higher education? And this really simple answer is they're picking educational specialties that really don't relate to this new economy. So we don't have a lot of philosophers. We don't have a lot of historians.
Yeah.
It was great, and Julius Caesar and Rome. All those things those are great. But that's just like, no, so our kids don't know what they want to do. They don't know what they want to be, so they take these very general curriculums. And in the country, there are 2 colleges that offer social media curriculums. 2 in the country. Most of them are online courses. We have more social media jobs than you can shake a stick at, and nobody is educated in that field.
Oh, that's fascinating. Sure, I know we were talking before we went on the air because we were both trying to use social media to promote the show. And again, when you start getting more involved in writing and doing what it is that you're feeling is going to make a bigger impact, being involved in posting your posts on Facebook is one thing that would be nice to give to an expert that could probably do it in, 2 minutes where it takes us, 15. So that is really interesting. And I know, like, when I was in school, it was funny you mentioned philosophy because I was an English major with a philosophy minor. And even when I graduated, I couldn't get a job as an English teacher. That was really what I was looking to do. I was newlywed. And at that time, there was no such phrase as stay-at-home mom. Most mothers were staying home. It wasn't, a huge career push when I graduated. So I know what you're saying about that because you went for the love of learning, but it is not something that gives you a career when you get out of. And it's interesting because mentioning my husband, he talks about this all the time. He's got fantastic people that work for him, but he always mentions that his drivers now are starting to get to the age where they're retiring. And he's really concerned about who's going to be replacing these drivers, because that is a very esteemable position. And you know how much of our commerce is carried by drivers. And again, that's not something that somebody, thinks of even considering as a career.
No, because, who wants to say that Johnny's, down the 90 driving from, Seattle to Secaucus? Again, we've been very, very strongly, brainwashed to believe that, we're very fortunate to have a 4-year education. And an enhanced education is imperative. But the fact of the matter is you don't see in the college brochures that if you get a degree in one of the basket weaving related industries, you have a really, really good shot of not getting a position when you get out of school. And that works out great, because then what you could do is you can continue in school, because maybe the I don't know gods will be calling your name, humming in the corner, so that you just keep on going for these educations. Whereas if we can really do a better job in our high schools and alerting the counselors to the vast amount of opportunities, one of the recent studies that I read is that the top 10 positions for at least the foreseeable future, and they're saying 10, 15, 20 years, 70% of those jobs take an enhanced education or an associate's degree, which means 30% of them you need a 4-year degree for. So needless to say, the college and universities don't want any type of identification with the fact that they have really not kept up with this new economy. Sales is one of the most efficient occupations in the country. Yet there's not a college that I'm aware of that has like a sales curriculum. So, why is that? Because, we're teaching history or philosophy or psychology or whatever the case may be. So we all have our own little fiefdoms now. Politics has a fiefdom, and education has a fiefdom, and business has a fiefdom, whereas we need to be collaborating all together and say, how can we make this nation great? Because the middle class is really suffering based on a belief system that just frankly is not working. It's just not working.
Well, I think, too, the point you make is so excellent about this is something that needs to be a grassroots movement beginning in our high schools, so that when these kids graduate, they have some clue what to do rather than just being mainstreamed into college, which in my day, you were told from the minute you were an egg that if you didn't go to college, you were going to amount to nothing. And I know, just having completed the work we've done here, with this new home that we're living in, where would we be without the excellent craftspeople that we had working here? But even with that, finding people, again, the plumbers, the electricians, the carpenters, for so long, these were positions, these were career paths that, okay, you're not going to college, so, they were quote unquote less than. And I think you're right. I think this is something that needs to be really focused on. I've talked about this before, about how our educational system needs a huge rehauling, in my opinion. But I can't believe it's already time for our first break. I want to remind everybody that we do have a Facebook page. It's 12 Radio. If you just click on Post by Others, you'll see right in the middle of the page, it says highlights, and then you can click on it says Post by Others. If you don't want to call in, you can feel free to post a question there. I am checking that out. So we have a Jean asking if she can ask a question there. Has somebody who would like to, and sure, you can post that question. If you'd like to call in, we'd love to hear from you. The phone lines will be open after the break. It's 218-862-7200, extension 870303. So, Joan, I'm really anxious to hear all about your book, and I know you've got a brand new program that's going to be coming online very soon. So I'm looking forward to hearing about all of that after the break. So will you stay with us?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, I'd like to remind you all that you are listening to Susan Dintino right here on Susan Dintino Live on 1-2 Radio, changing the way we listen to the world. See you after the break. Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome back to Susan Dintino Live, where I have a very special guest, career reformer, author, Joan Graci. And welcome back, Joan.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And we have a caller on the line, so we'll say hello and find out what the caller's question is. Good evening. What can we do for you this evening?
Hi, my name is Lori.
Hello, Lori. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Enjoying the show thus far.
Oh, great. Good. Well, let's hope you continue to enjoy it. Okay, well, what can we do for you, Lori? Do you have a question for Joan?
I do, Joan. Actually, I work in the entertainment industry in New York, and I did that for 15 years and recently just moved to Buffalo a month ago. And so I know that I'm a reinventor, but I have no idea what to do.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a great question, Laura. I think the difficulty always is when we talk about a specialty. Basically, a specialty is a type of occupation that you've selected, ideally because your natural behaviors, your passion, all the things that make you is attracted to that particular area. And for you, it was acting, and you did it for a period of time in New York. Now what you have to do is take what you loved about that and really align it to an occupation that's not that, because it's probably not that realistic in our marketplace. But what qualities and characteristics can you pull out of that particular occupational choice and then align it with a new occupational choice? And at our agency, we use a behavioral assessment, and we really involve science in the process for the people that are just like, look, I really have to figure out what's going on inside me and how it relates to a potential occupational track. So we administer that right online to a person. We get a 20-some page report from it, and then we really share with you how your career DNA, if you will, matches to new occupational choices. And then we map out a roadmap to help you really facilitate whatever that particular direction may be. And a lot of times it's a test and learn. You know, I love this and I love doing that. And, you know, I do think that special events might be something that I'm very, very interested in. And then you research that and check it, and we have you speak to people that are in that industry or marketing or whatever the case may be. But no one is just a milkman. No one just doesn't have one occupational choice. I mean, there are many things we can do. That's another piece of bad advice that we've really bought into, hook, line, and sinker. I can't do anything else. And I can tell you that is absolutely not true.
That's exactly. So many people have said, oh, you worked in entertainment, you're never going to be able to find anything else, you're stuck doing that. And I know that I can do something else, but I just need the resources to know how to go about that.
Exactly. And that's really, honestly, that's why we do what we do, because from the employment agency standpoint, that was our main business. What started to happen to us is we were helping 10% of the people find jobs. And my partner and I, Jean Filipiak, said, well, what do we do with the 90% of the other people that are so clueless? And we really started Career Savers, that's what it was called, and we were helping people at our employment agency nights, holidays, and weekends. And it made such a difference in people's lives, the knowledge that we could share from being Malcolm in the Middle, being recruiters. Right. And it really now has just become a passion of every single person at my organization and taking the wisdom that we have. But you are absolutely on the right track. And, you know, APA Solutions is our employment agency. Please don't hesitate to call us at, 1-800-230-9651. I mean, we help people on a national basis with the, thankfulness of technology with Skyping and everything along those lines. But heck, you're right in our backyard, and I'll tell you, we can absolutely get you on track.
Okay, I definitely will.
Joan, excuse me. What was that number again? I'm just going to post it on the Facebook
It's
page.
1-800
Okay.
230-9651.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you
Lori.
so much. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
We have a question posed by Gina in the chat room, so to speak, and she says, what does Joan recommend you to do to steer your children into fields that are needed in the next 5 to 8 years? How do you stay current with the needs if all the normal systems, schools, and counselors are so out of touch?
Yeah, you have to not listen to them, and I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, because we work a lot with career counselors. So we want to strategically align with them. The problem is the bulk of the counselors go from school to school to school to school, and they haven't looked for a position in a long period of time. What we find so fascinating is that we are raising technologically advanced kids. You referred to it in, on and off the air in our conversations. Yet there's been a steady decrease in our young people going to school for information technology. Now, that would seem absurd in that why wouldn't our kids who love technology be moving in those directions? There are over 132 different types of information technology jobs today. It touches every
Joan,
facet.
define information technology. What exactly are you speaking
of? It's social media, all right?
Okay.
It's programming. It's data mining. It's data analyst. I mean, there are so many vast amount of information technology. Now it touches every single facet of our life. I mean, I had a surgeon on my radio show, and he told me he doesn't operate the same way that he did 2 years ago. 2 years ago. And it's because of technology. So you need people who are technology savvy, sales technology savvy, programming, all those different areas. The life sciences, medical, environmental, engineering. Oh my God, there are so many engineering opportunities. Accounting is miles past a certified public accountant. There are all different types of accounting positions today, finance. But you hear all those terms and they're specialties. And what we have to do as parents is let's get our kids into experiences while they're in high school. Don't wait. So if your child is taking apart a PC in the basement or is addicted to their iPad, get them in with a business and say, my son has shown a real inclination for this. Can they shadow? Can they intern? Businesses are doing that all the time for our high schoolers that we're counseling. And they're showing them what a day in the life of an engineer looks like in information technology. We don't let our kids touch and feel enough today. And that's why we have the dropout rates that we do. They're not connected. They're not connected because we have Moses, Jesus, and other disciples that are primarily on school boards that are so out of touch with what is really going on in the business sector that it's really, really hurting our children, which is why charter schools are doing so much better because they're connecting in such a different way with our youth. So get your kids out there and show them as many occupations as you can while they're in high school. Do not wait for them to go to I don't know university to the tune of.
It's interesting, too, because, I've been a big fan of the Conversation with God books for years, and it was, those books were very instrumental for me on this path, and they're by Neil Donald Walsh, and I'm sure probably most of you listening are familiar with them, but I can't remember which book it was in that he talked about this issue with our educational system. And again, as he was having this conversation with God, and I can't remember the name of, I want to say Waldorf. I'm almost positive that was the name of the system that they were recommending. And again, it's this whole charter system that you're talking about where, the kids aren't mainstreamed into, algebra, geometry, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's finally getting to the point, like we always said, they're not going to use it. I mean, we said that when am I ever going to do X plus Y? And now it's really at a point where it's true. It's interesting because I was with my niece on Monday and we were talking about her brother, very, very bright boy. He goes to a private school, and what he's decided to do, because he's doing so well and everything, is he's going to go into a BOCES program in addition to his traditional education, and he's going to come out with some type of certification as a personal trainer. And I thought that was brilliant. And again, because that's something, look at that. We didn't even know what those were when I was getting out of school. I'll never forget one of my jobs as a fitness director in the YMCA. Everything I learned from books. I was actually teaching prenatal exercise classes based on what I learned just on my own, because there was no such thing. I always tell the story about the first time I taught aerobics. It was in ballet slippers and that flash dance look, There was no such thing as aerobic sneakers. I mean, you did them in ballet flats. That's an industry that didn't even exist how many years ago? So I think that's the whole thing, is to, like you said, get involved with the charter school or something that causes you to think outside the box. And if you're in a traditional school, then to be proactive as a parent and introduce your child to things that they might be interested in.
Yeah, and go with that. Just go with that. I mean, it's so outside of the norm. I had a young woman who came to me who wanted to be an auto mechanic, and everybody was teasing her because she wanted to be a mechanic, and what a shame that she's going to make $20 to $40 an hour being a female mechanic. I mean, there's just endless possibilities, and we've been so brainwashed that the ticket to greatness is through this traditional pathway, and we ignore the Steve Jobs and the Bill Gates and those wondrous people that never graduated from college and are true innovators. I mean, engineering really, really has been the bane of American history, and we've had a steady decline in engineering since the 60s. For every engineer that we graduate 27 attorneys.
Wow.
That's scary.
I'm assuming, Joan, these are all facts that are in your book, MBA.
Yeah,
I don't want to...
it's just like, I'm just fascinated by this stuff. Like, my mom always used to ask me, why don't you read this magazine? Or all I do is read about employment. I'm fascinated by it. And we cited as many things as we could in the book. Like, it was supposed to be 120 pages and it got up to 200, because we really talk about how did we get here? When did this disconnect between the employer and the employee really start? And I noticed it in 2000 with the advent in technology, and now the divide is as great as the Grand Canyon. And so the first half of the book is our history, and then the second half of the book really, really speaks to, okay, get it, Joan, I know where it started. How do I fix it for me? And, what I say to people all the time is you can't change the results without changing the strategy, the execution of it. So if you're going to do the same thing all the time and think you're going to find your life's work, you're not going to. Get out there and just, intern. I've had people that are 40 and 45 years old intern. Well, no, that's for young. No, it's not. Throw out the traditional molds. I mean, people love return to the workforce moms for their stability and all of those type of things. And, it's one of those things that, you have to just throw out all the traditional mindset, because this couldn't be a more exciting time to be building a future today. And yet you pick up the newspaper and it's gloom and doom. 10% unemployment. Who are these people that are unemployed? And have they not enhanced their skills to the point? Soft skills, personality traits, or hard skills, their skill set, to be employable today? Those are the questions we should be asking. Why? Because we don't want to know the answers.
Well, I don't want to let the show end without you talking about your online course, because it's fascinating. And one of the people in the chat room just mentioned how you can hear the passion in your voice as you talk about this. And this is what I tell people all the time, that when you're passionate about what you do, it's no longer about the time where you work and you have passion. It's about bringing that passion that you have to your work. And you certainly can hear it in your voice. So tell us a little bit about this online course that will soon be happening.
Yeah, basically what happened is as I mentioned to you earlier, we started in our agency, we actually designated a spot, a career reform spot. To the back of our employment agency, we set up a classroom. And we started to do it 8 years ago. And we just invited people into, this brick and mortar, and it literally, we career reformed from 16 to 61, all right? And I put together a curriculum that this is such a new religion. I mean, it's really Buddhism to most people because of the strong embedded beliefs that we have. So this brick and mortar curriculum, we've really perfected over the years. And whether we've applied it through career reform or our employment agency, we literally have put thousands of people back to work through this process, through this knowledge, through this research that we've done. So in doing so, we said, how can we affect a greater audience? So we took our brick and mortar, and we work with a wonderful software engineer, Kevin Upton is his name, and he really took our brick and mortar and put it online for us. And we didn't want to lose the connection to the candidates. That was our big concern. Could they hear my passion? Could they experience what they could, right in front of us? And what we did was we put a ton of videos in the online course, and we actually have live pieces of it in that if I need you to tell me your story, Susan, and I need to make sure that it's employer ready, you will actually videotape yourself, send it to me in an email. I'll open it, listen to you telling your story, and then I'll critique it for you and get back to you.
Wow. That's truly innovative. There's nothing on them. That's incredible. When do you...
So, teleseminars, webinars, all of those type of things that we can really, really affect, FaceTime, whatever the case may be, all built into the system. So we're just really, really hoping. July 4th is our launch date because our philosophy is career independence, career reform.
Oh, I love that. And when is your book due out, Joan?
Back to school.
Okay.
Yeah, back to school. Yeah, and I know you had a longer road than I did, but, I wasn't fortunate enough to get picked up by a large publisher like you did. But they're a little bit more malleable, and they have an opportunity to really, get it to us in a timely fashion. So we're really excited about that because we think with what we're doing, back to school is a very poignant time of year. So we're really going to be promoting that. So July 4th, we launch our website, careerreform.com. We launch our online course, that's a supporting to that. And, we're just really, really going to be spreading the message, across the country about career reform. And, hopefully, we had a gentleman who actually had graduated from our class. He's on our website. We loved him to death. His name was Jimmy Cazadora. And he was a 48-year-old. He was in the reinvent category and just took everything we said to heart, which is so rewarding when it's such a tough journey. And he actually had passed away very, very suddenly. And a week after he passed away, he found out that he had gotten the job of his dreams. So that was a very, very heartbreaking yet rewarding scenario. And his fiancée, who referred him to us, actually has written a letter to Ellen scripting this story. So, who knows? It could be something like that.
So, in other words, what you mean is that a week after he passed, he was notified that he had gotten the job. Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a point story.
So, we've got, career reform on the other side. Weren't exactly anticipating that.
Well, he sounds like somebody that's going to be able to be helping you from over there. So you can't have too many allies where that's concerned. That's for sure. So More Bad Advice. That's the name of the book. We're looking for it in the fall. And let's just give a little bit more of a tease to our audience. Why don't you mention one other piece of bad advice that we can find in your book before we break?
Yeah, we do the top 10 bad advices, and I think that what we've talked a lot about here, and I don't remember which bad advice it is. It's 4, 5, or 6, but it's like, we believe that an education equals a good job, or that education will solve the affliction of I don't know. And the more confused you are in college, the better, because that means that you can stay for as long as you are welcome.
Wow. Well, it sounds just fascinating. I can't believe how fast this hour went by. And Joan is available for private sessions at APA Solutions. She also has a website. You have an apasolutions.com website as well, right?
Yep, and it's apasolutions.com, careerreform.com. Again, we'll launch, close to July 4th. Career Reform, I have my Twitter account, hashtag Career Reform. So, certainly, we'd love to hear from people through Twitter, and, we follow that very, very closely. So, don't hesitate to follow me on Twitter, either through Joan Graci, but we would love it under Career Reform just because that's such a big part of the movement. And, we do anything that we can certainly to help people, because the more cases that we have that, this truly is revolutionary, and we're really trying to make an impact for the betterment of not only the people, but honestly, Pollyanna, as it may seem, America, we'd love to be able to hear from people. We'd love to be able to share their stories.
Well, hey, if America's working, America's going to be a lot happier as a whole. And I think that so much of the metaphysical environment now talks about 2012 and what does it mean. And whereas I don't buy into any of the apocalyptic descriptions, I think it is so much about changing the way we look at things. There's that, I've heard it from Wayne Dyer, whether he was the originator, but when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's it. And it's really come down to that across the board with our careers, with everything in our life, because now careers can very much be abundant life purpose opportunities. So the two can actually merge. It's not where you're off in la la land working at something you love to do and can't earn a living at it. There's abundance available for everybody. It's just learning how to see it. So I can't thank you enough for being our guest this evening. This hour did indeed fly by, and I'd love to have you come out again, maybe right after the launch. I can have you back in July and tell people all about this course, exactly how to get there. And certainly any of you that are in the Buffalo area that are looking for a wonderful person to help you find that perfect position, give Joan a call. I know her and her team would be happy to help you. So thank you very much, Joan, for joining us this evening.
And again, I just like to say, and it just doesn't have to be Buffalo. I mean, like I said, we do a lot through technology, and again, certainly anybody who's looking to be career reformed, it's a very, very empowering opportunity. Susan, thank you so much. I've truly enjoyed it. I haven't been and have my own radio show now for over a year, so it's nice to be back on this medium. Thank you.
You're welcome, Joan. Okay, I want to remind everybody to stay tuned. The Oliver Show is right after this, and he's got a very special guest, a holistic nutrition counselor, and I hope I do not butcher her last name, Nancy, and I'm going to say Desjardins, something like that. And she's going to tell you 7 foods to avoid, how to gently detox, and how to help your digestion. So with Oliver, I'm sure it's going to be an incredible show. So you want to stay tuned for that right after this show. I also want to remind everybody that 1-2 Radio has changed the music. If you haven't listened to it in a while, the music is wonderful. So in addition to all of the fantastic shows we have, listen and tune into our music. I want to give a special thank you to Laura Lozano for keeping me sounding wonderfully for this past hour. Make sure you check out her show. It's always fascinating. Laura Out Loud on Thursdays. And I'm not going to butcher what time it's on because I never remember, but it's Thursday morning Pacific time. So without any further ado, I want to remind each and every one of you to live, love, and laugh. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night.